Hey guys, welcome to Tuesday, day 2 of week 2 of remote learning. And today we actually have a super interesting topic. And I've been saying everything's interesting about the revolution, whatever, but today is a very big deal. Today we're going to be learning about the Boston Massacre. Now, we read a little bit about the Boston Massacre on pages 18 through 22. And it was really page 22 that talked about the Boston Massacre, and that's what we're going to be using today. We're going to be using page 22. And I'm going to be taking a picture of page 22 so you guys see it in front of you. You don't have to worry about listening to this video a bunch of times to hear it, okay? We're also going to be looking at another text today, which is the Massacre on King Street, which is an article that shows different point of view and gives different information about the Boston Massacre, okay? But before we get into any of that, we have our essential question, which is still, why is it important to see both sides of a story? We have our focus question, which is, what are the perspectives of both sides in George versus George? And then today, our content framing question is, what does a deeper exploration of different accounts of the Boston Massacre reveal about perspective? Okay? So I have Boston Massacre here in big red letters and in a cloud, everything like that. I chose red for a very specific reason. And, you know, the Boston Massacre isn't just when the Yankees go up to Boston and beat the Red Sox. It was an actual thing, okay? And it was a big turning point in the tensions between the British and colonists leading up to the Revolutionary War. So just so you guys know, a massacre is actually a violent killing of many people. Okay, because there were people that lost their lives during the Boston Massacre, and we'll see that when we read today. But I think the word massacre might be a little bit of a exaggeration, shall we say. And it's going to be part of our vocabulary words that we get into in just a minute. The second word today is taunted. And I'm sure plenty of you out there have taunted someone in your time, whether it's a brother, a sister, a friend, whatever, whether you're playing a sport or playing a video game, right? All those dances that happen in Fortnite, those are all taunting dances, okay? If you ever watch like wrestling or sports, when when one guy does something good, they usually make a face or a gesture at the other person. Well, taunting is being teased with cruel words or actions, and it's basically being made fun of, okay? So in this Boston Massacre story, there was one group that was taunting or making fun of another group. And then the last word for today is the word propaganda, okay? And propaganda sounds like a long word that many of you guys probably haven't heard before. Well, propaganda is information or an opinion given to other people to may have them go against an idea or a person, okay? So if I, as the leader of our class, I like to say, was to not like something, or an individual, or a sports team, or another teacher, or something like that, I could give you guys propaganda information that's just basically my opinion, trying to get you to not like that other thing or other person, okay? And that's kind of where the word massacre comes in, because a massacre, like we said, is the violent killing of many people. We're going to be able to judge today whether the word massacre was really the right word to use for what happened on King Street, okay? Now, what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be looking at page 22 of George versus George, and we're also going to be looking at the massacre on King Street. Now, you guys are going to have 2 tasks today for classwork. The first task is going to be to complete one of those fill-in-the-blank evidence charts that you guys have done for the past couple of lessons. It's just filling in the one word and you're good to go. The other one is going to be more of an evidence organizer that looks like this, okay? It's a Venn diagram, that chart that has the 2 circles with the piece in the middle for what both of the things have in common, except in a chart form. So the first column is going to be things that are only on page 22 of George versus George. The middle is going to still be information you found in both George versus George and Massacre on King Street. And the last column is going to be Massacre on King Street only, okay? I'm gonna make this for you guys in Word, so you can either print it and write on it, you can type on it in Google Docs, you guys can do whatever you want. Also, like I said, I've uploaded pictures of both page 22 and of 4A, which is the Massacre on King Street article. So if you're sitting down ready to watch this, go into Google Classroom, open the two documents up, so that as I'm reading it to you, you guys can read along and maybe even jot some things down, okay? I'm gonna read page 22 of George versus George first. And this is something I've been trying to get better at in these videos, giving you guys the information ahead of time so you can do it as I'm doing it in real time. So, go to Google Classroom, pause the video, open up page 22 of George versus George. And by the time I get to the page, you guys should be ready. You with me? Page 22 of George versus George, okay? And you'll see here there's a big picture at the bottom and not a whole lot of text, okay? And you should be following along, so I'm just gonna read it from here. King George was sure that certain gentlemen who pretended to be patriots in Massachusetts were no more than criminals, so he sent a fleet of warships to Boston to make them behave. 700 soldiers wearing fancy uniforms soon paraded up Boston streets with muskets on their shoulders, and muskets were guns. Whenever they were off duty, the men stole, got drunk, and chased women. Like we said the other day, things that are not becoming of a soldier or anybody in general. Some also infuriated worshippers, meaning people that were in churches, by purposely racing horses, beating drums, and gambling under the church windows on Sundays. In March of 1770, an angry mob of American rowdies started taunting 8 of King George's soldiers and pelting them with icy snowballs. So you see there, they're taunting them, they're making fun of them, they're getting after them. We mentioned that the other day as well. Then someone threw a lump of wood at a redcoat and knocked him flat. The enraged troops began firing into the crowd, and 5 colonists were killed. Furious Sons of Liberty were quick to label this disaster the Boston Massacre and stir up plenty of anger on both sides. And you'll see here that you'll have the quotes from the people in the picture. You have, "Fire, by God, I'll stand by you whilst you have a drop of blood. You coward, you dare not fire. You can't kill us all." So that's page 22. Now I have to get Massacre in King Street. Okay? Pause the video, get Massacre in King Street ready, because I'm going. You good? Get ready to take notes. British soldiers had been taunted by Boston's residents since their arrival in the city in October of 1786. The troops had been sent to help Massachusetts acting Governor Thomas Hutchinson keep law and order in the rebellious city, but Boston citizens resented their presence, okay? So basically, the troops were sent to like kind of help out, but the colonists in Boston were like, we don't need them, we don't like them, get them out of here. The Sons of Liberty met often to talk about what they should do. Samuel Adams felt if the townspeople became angry enough, they might be ready to separate from Britain. Small fights between the soldiers and citizens began to occur with some frequency. On March 5th of 1770, events reached a boiling point. The city was covered with a layer of new snow. Outside the custom house on King Street, a barber's apprentice, Edward Garrick, shouted at a British soldier. Hugh White. Angered by the insult, White struck Garrett with the butt of his rifle. So basically took the end of his gun and went boom like that and hit him with it. Garrick yelled for help, and a crowd gathered. Bells in a nearby church started ringing, sounding an alarm in the city, and more people rushed to the scene. White called for help, and 8 additional soldiers came to aid. So now a whole swarm of colonists has joined, and there's 8 British soldiers. By some estimates, a mob of almost 400 people crowded around the British soldiers outside the customs house. In addition to shouting insults to the soldiers, the crowds began throwing things, a stone, some ice, a snowball. The soldiers had been ordered not to fire. But the colonists grew more menacing, meaning they kept doing more and more things, and getting worse as they did more. One gun went off, followed by others. The crowd dispersed, only when Hutchinson promised that the 8 soldiers and their captain would be arrested and tried for their actions. By morning, 5 colonists were dead and 6 others were wounded. For the soldiers' own safety, their trials were postponed a few months so that the Boston citizens could calm down. Hutchinson was forced to remove the troops from the city, which was a victory for the Sons of Liberty. However, the troops did not return to Britain. Instead, they moved to Castle William, an island in the Boston Harbor. Okay? I'm going to stop there. There's 2 more paragraphs, but I don't want to take up too much time in the video. They're 2 short paragraphs you guys can read on your own. But as you can see, we have 2 very different takes on the Boston Massacre. Okay? So now I'm going to fill out the chart. If I'm thinking about page 22 of George versus George, we had the illustration, and that illustration also had quotes from the colonists, okay? So it has the illustrations and quotes from the colonists. If I'm looking at massacring King Street, there's a lot more information about the soldiers, right? So we learned that there were 8 British soldiers who had orders not to shoot. And I actually love the article Massacre on King Street because it gives a ton of information. So for only Massacre of King Street, you guys can find a lot of things because it gives you a lot more than just page 22 does. And then in both texts, it talks about how the colonists taunted the British soldiers. And now, this is an opportunity that I'm going to take, because we're talking about perspective, to give some perspective on both sides here. So, for me, I totally understand that the colonists did not want these British soldiers around. They're like, go home, you're like big brothering us, you don't need to be here, you don't need to watch over us, we're good to go. We have a governor, we have all we need. So they were fighting, and they were taunting, and they were angry that they were there. But then, the British soldiers, really, they're just there doing their job. They were sent there, and they're like, hey, why don't you guys just kind of fall in line, we'll try to get through this, we'll figure it out. But then, at the same time, like, I wouldn't want to be taunted. I'm just trying to do my job. Like, leave me alone. I didn't send myself over here. The king sent me. It's not my fault I'm here. I'm just doing my job. So I can understand why they would be frustrated with the colonists as well. Do I mean frustrated enough to start firing into a group of people? No. But then again, we don't know all the finite details of this story. But this is another part of it about perspective. Okay, you're starting to see that both the colonists and the soldiers had their certain sets of beliefs and certain things that were happening that pushed each other's buttons and that caused that tension. Okay? Again, it's important to see both sides of the story. Today, you guys are going to have the fill-in-the-blank evidence organizer. You're going to have this evidence chart of the separate articles and both articles. And then you guys are going to have some questions to answer for homework, all right? Please make sure you guys are watching carefully. Please have the text open. I'm giving you guys the pictures today. Other than that, keep up the good work, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.